Greetings, Light Tribe, Janine Palmer here, Spirit Silver Moon, for Harmony Energy Healing. And today I want to talk about relationships and, here's flipping out, relationships and how, I don't know, either how they test us or what we learn from them, as far as our responses and how we treat people in them and how they differ from relationship to relationship. So I'm going to use an aspect of something I observed. I just want to be perfectly clear here that this is only a limited perspective, but I think there might be some value in it if it helps someone to understand behavior in themselves about anything that might need to be healed. I don't know. Okay, so in our relationship dynamic, whether, you know, there's so many of them, aren't there? Whether it's a romantic relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, oh gosh, friends, and then it could be any relationship with any family member that branches out, whatever that might be, okay? And how we feel about it and how we treat that individual in it, which may or may not be a reflection of us that we may or may not be seeing. Okay, and so some people are able to have, like, and it's rare it seems, like this type of relationship where they make it last, they make it work. Of course they have problems, of course they have fights, some people go to counseling, whatever. They find a way to work it out. They continue to honor each other in some way. Even if there's times they don't get along or if they misunderstand each other, but they honor to a degree. So sometimes people look on a relationship like that and say, oh, you know, it's so good how those people were able to hold it together and just be with each other and whatever. And other people's relationships seem more challenging and they fall apart and the people aren't able to honor each other and they move out in different directions in whatever way for whatever they're going to learn from that experience. So what I wanted to bring up is the fact that I just was reflecting on this and I noticed this. It was a type of an observation because I had an experience with a friend once who was a very good friend for a very long time, and situations or relationships, they just kind of fall apart sometimes and we don't understand why, and sometimes we wonder why another person doesn't want to attempt to mend it or to, I don't know, make it be a thing again, especially when it's in a family dynamic. But you can't force these things and you have to come to a level of acceptance, and sometimes that takes a while and usually that's not easy. But what I was saying, like in this particular situation, so you might read about this in books, you might see it in movies, you might observe it with friends or family members, you might experience it yourself. So in some relationships, it's that main close relationship which is the biggest test, because our relationships are our greatest teachers. And the different incomplete things in the person that draw each other or push each other away, how the wounds come out, masks fall off, wounds come out, stuff we brought in with us, stuff that was there before we met the person, but then it starts to show itself, battling other people's demons, substance abuse, what that creates and what we have to face in another because of that, or what we put on another if we're doing it, that we might not realize or might not care, because we're that wounded and we're hurting that much and we're trying to numb and we're trying to escape. Okay, so people don't understand that. And the wounds that are created from that can be heinous as well. So a lot of times it's that main relationship that's more of a romantic relationship that tests us, and people get pushed away or they have to leave. So sometimes people are in a situation where they're like connected, they're married or whatever, and sometimes they separate, split up, divorce. Sometimes they don't do that, but they still go off in other directions and they have other experiences. They're trying to mend and heal themselves, and other people might judge that, which they really can't do, but they certainly do try. So let's say that, like, the person that's having the challenge with a romantic relationship, they might be really good at keeping their other connections together, close, nurtured, honored, that they keep those friends and they take care of those friendships, but they weren't able to maintain that close spousey one or whatever. Then there's the one, and this is what I noticed with a friend, is that she was able to honor her close relationship and make it be this strong, admirable thing that, you know, people get proud of in their own way. That they're glad that they were able to do that when so much of the world seems not to be able to. To each his own soul contract, by the way. So that's cool. But I noticed with her, she would probably be learning through the other relationships around her that she didn't honor, that she didn't keep together, that she threw by the wayside because typically they were judged, that there was something that was found to be judged and then sloughed off. Like it wasn't important enough. It wasn't important enough to nurture and honor that. So she'll just focus on the spouse one and let the other ones fall by the wayside. And I saw this happen with many of them. And then to me. And I didn't realize this until years later. In fact, just until recently when I'm reflecting and I'm thinking about what we learn from the relationships. And she's able to honor this one. But I'm looking around and I'm like, but not the other ones. So the relationships are our teachers. Even if we honor the most important one, that's fabulous. And if we can't or don't honor the other ones, it's something to be learned from it, from each person or people involved in that experience and what they take away from it. For me, it was a catalyst to really direct me towards my calling, and I'm actually very grateful for it. I can see now that if that hadn't happened, I might not be where I'm at now, and I know I need to be where I'm at now. So sometimes we try our very hardest to nurture and honor that closest connection to us, and sometimes we can't do it by ourselves because we're hitting walls or because we're being damaged in the process, and we have to begin to honor ourselves and our feelings. And a very wise friend of mine recently brought that to my attention. She's like, you need to honor your feelings. You're too worried about other people's feelings. You need to honor your feelings. I'm like, thank you for that reminder. So, some people might think, oh, I have this and it's just this good thing and most people don't have it. But are they looking at the fact that they're like, I wanted to say pissing on, I don't want to be rude, but like that they're making other people unimportant in their relationships, and that's their choice. They want to make a judgment and then hold it against someone and then piss them off, not piss them off, to slough them off, like piss off. So what is, and that person who's doing that might not realize it. They might not even be learning anything from it because they're in the ego space. They feel justified in what they're doing. They don't see if they're hurting someone or care. So they're going to keep their focus on what's more important, and that's fine. There's always something that's more important, that's a bigger focus for us. But with some of us, no matter how hard we try, we might have a more wounded person in our life, or we might be that more wounded person in the situation. That makes it difficult or impossible for us to have that perfect thing, but we still learn from it. And what do we do with it? That's the key. That is what is so important. That is what matters the most, is what we do with it and how it directs us, how we evolve, how I feel like how we find compassion and how we use it. What is our gift and how do we give it away? So if we're too busy judging people and being that judge and jury that's like casting people off like they don't matter while we're in this little, self-righteous bubble. I don't know what it is, but it's just stuff to learn from, because we learn from all the relationships. And however we're directed, that we're called towards a soul for what we recognize that other people might not understand, doesn't matter whether someone understands it or not. They were not in your shoes. They're not living out your soul contract. They don't know what you are going to learn from any particular experience or choice that you made, whether they want to judge that choice as right or wrong, because on higher levels, it's not about right or wrong. It's about what you learn from the experience. But people in that whole egoic group thing, they love to have shit to judge so that they can feel superior when they haven't even experienced what someone else experiences, and they shouldn't be judging anybody. Again, that's all for the learning. So those people that are judging and being unkind, they haven't evolved as high or whatever, up the spiral, however you want to look at it, as those people who have been through those hellish situations and have had to make hard choices that other people have judged and tried to knock them down for and tried to cast stones. Those people who made the choices and went through the sitting, which is missing the mark, missing the point, where they were thrashed around and redirected. And so They began to learn and grow and evolve, and they began to love and honor themselves and God in them, instead of some God like outside of themselves. In, I don't know, hopefully you understand what I'm saying. So the people who think they're in this bubble of self-righteousness and they're not looking at what they've done and what they've created and how they've even hurt people, and they probably don't give a shit, or maybe they do, maybe they would if they understood, but they don't see it. It's all about focus. It's all about perspective. So what I'm sharing here is just a limited perspective. It's something to think about and consider with our actions, because we might not be aware that we're doing these things, or that those things might be holding us back or putting up walls to keep other people out, to prevent love from coming in and out of our space. So I just think it's interesting that somebody might be able to honor their direct relationship and cast aside all the other ones, and vice versa. Some people might have the hardest time keeping that one relationship together, but they nurture all the other ones around them. What do we learn from it? None of it can be judged. Why? Because nobody has pure knowledge about any particular situation or any particular person, or the reason things happen the way they happen, which comes through our emotions and feelings. However balanced or unbalanced they might be, it's all a process of our unfoldment, and it's not, fodder for anyone else to, I don't know, it's not ammunition for other people to use against you, because if they do, they're really reflecting something unhealed in themselves, and they probably don't see it. Anyway, that's all for this one now. Peace.